Are you looking for ways to streamline and organize your sewing room?
Well, we've got just what you need.
Keep watching.
Hi, it's Hannah.
And Fran Morgan with Fabric Cafe.
Your sewing space is your haven, and you want to make that space work for you.
We have some great tips today to show you how to do that.
So first up, we're going to look at how to organize your cutting and ironing space.
So the first thing we do whenever we start quilting is we're going to iron fabric and cut it. And you were sharing some great tips with me on things that you do in your sewing space.
Oh, thank you. Well, so like many of you, I have a little sewing corner, but I don't have a whole sewing room. And many don't get to have a whole sewing room.
That's
We're
true.
constricted to a little area.
Yes.
If we get that, it's lucky when we get our little area.
Yeah.
So some things I've discovered when I was working in there, I got an ironing mat. I don't have an ironing board, but this is something you can roll out and put on any table. And then if you need to get it out of the way when you're not ironing, you just roll it up and put it away. You can tuck it in anywhere.
That's awesome. This is really nice
Isn't that
too.
fun?
Yeah,
I got a really
great.
thick one.
Now this is a big mat. So do you have a table next to your sewing machine is it there all the time? Do you fold it
Yes.
away or?
Yeah, I have one table that I use for dual pressing and cutting, and I'll show you what I do for cutting here in a second.
Okay.
But if you don't have space for that, you could easily use a fold-up table that you just put up whenever you're working and then take down and hide in a closet or behind your sewing table.
That's
whatever
great.
you've
I know
got.
that's what I have to do. Is I
Yeah.
have to tuck everything away in between each sewing session.
Yeah,
So-
take it away from your dining table where you're doing piecing. And,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. This is fabulous. So, what about your cutting? So, how do you handle that?
So for my cutting, I have just a cutting mat, and I just stick it straight on top. I used to roll up my mat and then put this on the table, and I realized that was an extra step that was really unnecessary.
Yeah.
So I just slap it on top, and then if I'm doing small pieces, I have a little pressing area and my cutting area right next to each other.
Oh, that's perfect. Because really, if you think about it, whenever you're doing a 3-yard quilt, you're trimming squares and cutting strip assemblies, and you don't need a whole huge big area. So this is perfect.
Yeah.
Good
and
tip.
then if you do need a huge big area, all you have to do is take your cutting mat off, slide it beside your table, and you're done.
That's
or hang it on the
great.
wall, because I think this one has a little nail area, and I assume that most of them do.
Yeah.
That's something I don't know, because I'm not super well versed in cutting
Yeah.
mats, but
Let us know how you store your cutting mat. Do you hang it on the wall? Do you slip it into some space that you have or something like that? Because it is kind of an awkward piece,
Yeah,
and
it's
sometimes they're tough to store. So we would love to hear that. So we can hang them on the wall or slip them behind our tables. So it's great. So love this, Hannah.
Thank you.
Now I have something that's just slightly different, and forgive me, it's well loved, okay? So whenever I show you, I have one of these small mats like this, and I've had this for many years. Now on one side of this mat is like an ironing surface, and it's padded. And then on the other side of this mat, we have a cutting surface. Now, I usually leave this right next to my sewing machine because if I'm just pressing a block seam and I'm not doing a big quilt, this is perfect for the in process. It really helps keep it handy. And then I can just flip it over, like you said, and square up a block or whatever I need to do. Now, this isn't great for keeping your iron on, because you're going to be flipping it back and forth. Now, we do have something that's really handy, and I just love how they've created these silicone mats now so that we can put our iron on them. So I used to take my iron and set it upright so that the bottom of the iron was sticking up and the plate was out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So now with the silicone mat, I can actually keep my iron down and set it on top of this, because I have actually gone to cut and knocked my iron off the table, which was terrible and not safe at all.
I haven't done it yet, but I foresee it happening.
So this is really handy. It really helps streamline it whenever you can just set your iron face, the heating pad down, and it still gives me a place to cut.
Yeah.
Or I can turn it over, grab my iron press. very easy, very handy.
It keeps it out of your working space, so you
Yes.
have the most bang for your buck on your cutting mat.
So it really helps to streamline the very small area that I have to quilt. So it's super great.
Well, and one more thing I like about this too, you have a handle on it. So this would be really good if you're going to like a class or a quilting retreat.
Oh,
'cause I know a lot of y'all do that.
Yes.
You have a little handle.
It's perfect.
To carry it to class.
Love
That's
it. You're
so
right.
fun.
You can carry, or you can hang on the wall with that handle, just like the other mat.
That is such a good idea. I'm all about wall space.
Yes.
You'll find that out later in this video.
We don't
too.
have floor space. We go vertical. And we do it on the wall, so it's perfect.
Perfect.
All right, so the next section that we're going to be talking about is maximizing your surface area that you're working with.
So when you're sewing, you want to have the most space possible to, work on your projects. When I first started sewing, I didn't have any places to put my books or my fabric that I wasn't using right at that moment. So I was like draping things over furniture halfway across the room and, putting my book in my chair and having to turn and look at it and then having to move it. And it's just a mess.
It can get a little crazy sometimes.
But you have had some really great ideas that I've actually implemented some in my sewing space and love about how to organize your books and your fabrics and stuff. So let's start with books.
Books, okay, so this is what I did just as a survival technique because I was in the same place you were with, okay, what do I do with this pattern while I'm working on it and I don't want to lose my space?
Yeah.
So what I've done is I went and just got some of these great big map clips or alligator clips. I know they've got lots of different names just from the big office supply store. You can get them in lots of different sizes. And then I take a command hook and stick it to the wall. That way you can pull it off and it doesn't damage your wall. Then you can just hook this right onto the wall. Now, I like to do this right behind my sewing machine so that whenever I'm sewing, I can read that or because your cutting and everything is right there too. Now, what I do is I like a bigger clip for my books and I'll just clip it and then I can hang this part on the command hook that's on the wall. And that way I've always got it handy. It's out of the way. I'm not moving it around. I'm not going to accidentally cut it with my rotary cutter, all of those things. So this works really, really well.
And you can open it up to whatever pattern you're working on.
Absolutely.
And
now,
clip it up.
It doesn't bother me to fold my books backwards. I do that just so that it hangs nice and straight. And I know that, okay, here's my cutting instructions. I can read that as I go. Now, of course, with a smaller pattern, it doesn't have the weight that the book has. The smaller clips will work, and of course, you can do it exactly the same way with the command hook on your wall. So it makes it really handy. Now, one of the other things that I always do is I keep Post-it notes in my sewing machine supplies because as I'm going, I like to come in here and put the Post-it note, say I'm working on step 1. I want to put the Post-it note right at the bottom of step 1 so my eye always goes right here. And that way I'm not losing my place because what is it? I mean, why is it that I read sideways and I've actually read the wrong line and done the wrong thing? I know.
That's nice. It blocks out everything else too. So it's just you can't even begin to look at
That's right. So it really helps to keep your eye where it needs to be and you're reading the correct thing.
Yeah.
So when this is hanging on the wall, you just move your Post-it note to the next step when you're ready to go and it's perfect.
Well, and that's also really good too. If you're not, making the whole thing in one sitting, then you know exactly where to go back to every time you come back.
That's such a good point, Hannah.
I haven't started doing that yet, but maybe I need to.
Yeah, so I really like that. And of course, the Post-it notes, you just toss it whenever you're done with the pattern and you're good to go. And when your stack of Post-it notes done, just look at all those quilts you've made.
Yes, perfect. Now, I will say I have done this in my sewing space, and it is a game changer. The first day Fran told me this idea, I was like, I went home and I immediately did it. And it has made all the difference. I have mine hanging above my cutting and ironing, and it is awesome. I love it. So I support this idea, and I think everyone should do it.
It really does make it handy and out of, still close, but out of the way. So it's super.
And you can zhuzh it up too if you want to get different clips and make it. You can get like, decorative clips or things like that, so you can make it look all cute and aesthetic.
Glue you a little quilt something right there.
Oh, that'd be so cute.
Okay, so what do we have next coming up?
All right, so next we're going to talk about how to organize your pieces and parts while you're working on a quilt in process.
I know that I'm really, really guilty of putting a strip around my neck and forgetting it's there and then panicking because I can't find it and it's around my neck.
Yep, or putting it on a table halfway across the room and it's like, okay, I lost that piece.
There it goes. Or the cat.
Yeah.
The cat's sleeping on it. That's usually what happens. Okay, so here's some great ideas on how to keep the cat from sleeping on your pieces. So one of the things that I like to do is I actually create a little board. So let me show you that. So what I've got here is I have actually taken some cotton batting. It's just a scrap of batting that I had left over from a quilt project. And I have wrapped it around the stretcher bars that you can get like at Michael's or Hobby Lobby or anything like that. Or use something old.
Yeah.
And then I just took it and I just pulled it tight and stapled it. Now, I am going to turn this so that you can see it. I have a corner here that has not been done, and you can see we've just pulled the edges first and stapled them down.
So this is just a great old artist canvas.
Yep,
Wow.
So very easy, very simple, and of course we've got the wire on it so that you can hang it on the wall. Now, you can use a staple gun like I have here that I have purchased just at Walmart or hardware store or whatever, and we're just going to pull and staple this. We're going to do the sides first. Now you can use like thumbtacks, just a flathead thumbtack, or you could probably do spray or spray adhesive just as long as it's going to hold it tight. It should work just fine. Now I've done the sides first like I mentioned. Now on the corner, what I like to do is I'll take the point of the corner and lay it over the corner like this. I like to put a little staple in it. That'll hold that down. And then we do the next little parts here like this. And that's going to give you a really nice corner. Let me just staple this down. You can see how pretty that corner goes together.
Look, it's all nice and tucked in.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
So just hang these on the wall because I'm kind of a funny person. I like to have like lots of art in my house. And so I like this idea. I'm going to grab a couple of quilt blocks here because I can make several of these to fit the size of my space, which is important because I know a lot of people have these beautiful, design walls that fill up a whole wall. I don't have that luxury. I only have little spaces. So this is perfect because I can make them to size and then I can just store my blocks. It sticks right up there.
Oh, wow.
It can be part of the planning. It can be just part of storing them in place. And I love seeing my quilt blocks in process because to me it's inspiring and it helps motivate me to keep going.
It's pretty.
So,
And what a useful way to look and make sure that all your pieces are going the right direction.
Oh my
If you're
goodness,
like
yes.
piecing together a block.
yes. So
That's useful.
this is really handy. I know it's small, but of course, like I said, you can do several of them and it works really well.
That is so cool. Well, we've got one more idea on this section on how to organize your fabrics. This is slightly different. On this one, you're gonna basically make like a fabric clothesline. So we'll make the clothesline.
Yeah.
We've just got a little piece of twine, and I just got it off of this. It's like you can get this at any craft store online, and it's just a little roll of twine. Then you can get little clippies. I have tiny clothespins just because they're cute, but it doesn't really matter what clip you have. You can do whatever works best for you, and you'll clip them on there. You'll just hang this on your wall. You can tie it onto command hooks and attach that to the wall, or if you're like me and you're lazy, you just do thumbtacks and stick it straight into the wall.
Yeah.
But
Then you can just clip a corner, clip a corner like this.
Yeah.
And then it'll hang. That's so clever, Hannah. It's so cute too, because I can see just like the line with all of your blocks on it. So fun.
And for some pieces, one clothespin is enough. But for this one, since it's really big, you can either let it hang like that and it looks pretty, or you can hang it like this and it also looks pretty. So just a matter of preference.
It's really fun. I love it. Now, you were telling me you also labeled them sometimes.
Yes. So I have done this in my sewing area, And I love it. I have it all laid out or all hung up on my wall. And I have little index cards with what the piece is written on it. So that way I can keep it straight, like, okay, this is block A, or this is my binding strip or whatever, so I don't get confused.
Oh, so you hang your long binding strips?
I hang my long binding strips too.
I
use
that.
it every step of the way. I will, after I cut off something and get it like all ready, they all get hung up. And I cut out everything and they all get hung up. And then when I start sewing, they get hung up when they're done.
I love that idea.
Awesome.
And you know, you can keep track of how many you've done and how many more on that little card that you said.
Oh my gosh.
Mind blown. Okay.
That's so good.
So
I love that.
There's so many clever ways in just small areas that I think you could really, I love this because I love that look anyway. Like whenever they do like the flags and everything, I just think it's so darling.
And it's kind of the same idea of like, you get to look at it and it inspires you. Like with the little design board, it's just different ways to make your sewing space pretty and also functional.
Absolutely. Okay, so the next thing that we have coming up that we want to share with you is tips on organizing all of those tools. We all know that sewing tools are awkward pieces of equipment that we have to have at our fingertips. They've
Lots of various sizes.
Yes, lots of sharp edges, lots of all these things. And so we're always trying to find handy ways to store them. So when we were doing some of our research on storing, we ran across a website that was really great. It's a blog. It is called Sew Simple Home Blog. And Chelsea is the author of this blog, and she has a great idea on how to put a pegboard on your wall in your sewing room and store all of those awkward pieces. And she goes through and tells us everything. We do have a link for that below in the description, so be sure and check that out. It is really handy. And you know, some of the things that we've talked about, like the twine and things and the book clips, can go right on that pegboard too, which I think would be really great.
That's so true.
It would be handy if you could do that and get that pegboard up. I think it was just a great idea that Chelsea had. So thank you, Chelsea, for sharing that with everyone and helping us share it too.
Yeah, and so cute too. Like it looks nice. It looks fun.
It really does.
Creative.
Very, very colorful and fun.
Which
I
is
agree.
What you want in your sewing room.
Yep, for sure. Very creative space.
So another way to use your walls too and utilize your space. All of your rulers will have a little hole in the top of them, so you can just hang them straight on the wall. I did this in my sewing area, and I just put a couple of nails in the wall, and I hung up all my rulers, and it is so convenient. I have it right by my cutting and ironing station, so when I'm doing a thing, I just can reach up, take it, do my cut, and then I can put it back on the thing, on the nail, so it's like out of the way.
It is very handy. I have also done it, and that's the way I prefer to store mine as well. So now, if you have a little bit bigger area, one of the other tips is to just get one of these like folder organizers or mail organizers from an office supply store. Then you could just set this on your cutting table top and just store them in there just like that. That also keeps them handy.
Multiples in there.
You could put multiples in there. Very clever. You could even put your pattern book that you're working at the time in there. I think that could be handy.
That's cute.
So, you know, if you have that table space and you're able, and if not, the wall is a great idea as well. Absolutely.
Well, and another thing that I really like too that I've used in my space, because I like this and it makes me kind of think, I have a side pocket on my table, on my cutting table, which is really cool. It's got my rotary cutter in it. It's got all of my books and patterns and things, so I can just like reach in and grab my rotary cutter. I'm a righty, so it's on my right side, so I can just reach down and get it.
That's handy. That's super handy.
Mine came with it. I specifically got a table with a pocket on the side because I wanted that. But Amazon has a lot of different ones that you can just attach onto any table.
That's true.
Yeah.
Even like the shoe organizer things I've seen where people have put little different tucked little things in there. Now that would be on the wall, but they have small ones that you could put on the side of your sewing table. Love that.
That'd be perfect. See, it's really convenient, and we got a couple links to a couple different versions in the description, so you can check those out.
Yeah, thank you. So if you have space and you wanted to do this as well, you could also just buy the pre-cut shelving from your hardware store that also have brackets that you could just hang on the wall that you could store different things. And that would be a handy thing too. And you know something I just thought of? Okay, I'm a big repurpose it kind of a girl, so bear with me. I love candles, so I buy candles a lot, and they come in such pretty little containers nowadays that I've gotten to where once I've burned the candle down, I can clean it out, and I can store like my bobbins, my sewing machine needles, rotary blades, different kinds of things like that in the little candle jars, and they're so pretty, so that would be a really handy thing too.
That's such a cute idea.
Yeah.
A cute and easy way to make it cute, but resourceful.
Yeah, it's so hard for me to throw those things away, so I get to reuse them in fun little ways. So that's one of the things that I do.
How awesome! Another really important part of sewing is your fabric storage. Fabric storage is extremely important because we all have a stash,
Yes.
and we need to keep it clean and well maintained. So here's some ideas for that. First off, you can get some Cubbie shelves that these fit into, and it's just like a cute little shelf with little cubbies in them. We have a link in the description to something like that. And we just got these really cute little decorative boxes that you can tuck inside of it and put your fabric in.
And these come in all different colors and styles, so that's kind of fun too.
So you can kind of match it to whatever you want your aesthetic to be, which is awesome.
Yes.
This is really the same thing, but this one came from more of like a dresser side table type of situation, and there's a link to one of those down below too. This is what I have in my sewing area, and I really like it. I keep my fabric in there, and I've also got some desk organizers in there, so I have some of
that's a good
my
idea.
tools in there. Yeah.
Organization inside of organization.
Yeah.
I love it. She's so organized. You know, I really like these too because I use these in my sewing space, and my sewing space has two purposes. Sewing space is one, but guest room is the other. So these are great too because it kind of keeps all of your things out of sight.
Yes. It looks neat.
It looks nice and tidy so that whenever guests do come, they're not looking at your sewing room and they don't feel like they're sleeping in your sewing room. So it's kind of nice. So I have one other one that I use as well. So let me show you that. And this is just another one that I found that I really liked. It's kind of a woven basket with a handle. It's a little bit more different style. But what I really liked about this one is I also found separately these little tags here. Now what's cool about this is it has hooks on it, so I can pull this off, and you can see the hooks are right here, so they'll also clip on those fabric storage boxes that we just shared.
Oh, how neat.
And I think I got maybe a dozen of these in a package, and then you can open them up like this, switch out your labels, thread or fabric or fat quarters or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And then you can switch those out and just put them on the side. Because they're not see-through, this is pretty handy, so you can keep organized and you don't have to go pull every single basket down to find out what's in there.
Yeah. That's true, because you'd want to have a way to see what's going on.
Right.
And you can use clear plastic bins if you want to. We actually have another organization video that Fran and Donna go in depth on how to use clear plastic bins if that's something you're interested in.
Yes, and that can be really super handy too. Now, what I also like about these, and I think this is really cool, is you can store your fabric wrapped around pieces of cardboard like this.
So cool.
So all we did was just fold it and just wrap it around and pin it on the back side. And then these can actually just stack up in here, so pretty.
Oh, I love that.
It's really nice. I like it too. And I like being able to see the colors in a basket. It's just really kind of that aesthetic. So really, then your guests don't feel quite so like I'm living in a sewing room.
It's very decorative.
I guess not everybody sews in their guest room like I do, but
Yeah.
but I really, really like this, and I think it's kind of neat. Now, we found one other thing which I think was really cool. The blog is Blue Eye Style, and she goes through and shares how to put together a cinder block shelf. And the cinder block shelf is really, really cool because it's, one, very inexpensive. It's just cinder blocks and boards. And then she turned the cinder blocks so that the cubbies show, and you can store little things in those little cubbies. So
Perfect.
very
like all
clever.
your threads and things.
Yes, very clever. I just loved it. So be sure and check out that link that we put below in the description.
And then these would be perfect on there too, because you can just stick them on the shelf.
Yes, that's a great idea. So it kind of looks like books and you can see all the colors.
Oh, I love that. That's so pretty.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Now, some other fabric things that we've thought about is you could even hang some inexpensive towel bars in your sewing room and just drape the fabric over the bars. I can see like 3 of them stacked. One of the things that I do whenever I'm planning a quilt project is I like to hang my fabric out or lay it out so I can see that all the colors are working well together. And those towel bars would be a great way to put it on the wall without it being in the way or on the bed or you know, in a chair. And you can really step back and look at it. I think that would be really cool.
That's so pretty. Well, and you know, they have like ladders too, like decorative ladders, like quilt ladders.
Like blanket ladders.
Yeah. So you could do the same thing with those. You could drape over your 1 yards or your fat quarters and or whatever you're working with.
That's a great idea.
See it all laid out all pretty.
Yes, and I love that. I mean, we all love to see our colors and all the bright, fun stuff that we're planning. It's very inspiring.
It's part of sewing. Now, another part of sewing that's very important is your books and pattern organization. But we actually covered that very extensively in another video. Well, Fran and Donna covered it very extensively in another video. And so be sure to check that out. You can click on the link below or click on the little up there. You can see that, and it tell you all about how to organize your books and patterns.
Yes, lots of good tips in that video as well. Now, little bits and bobs that we wanted to make sure we shared with you because they were very clever. So the first little item that we found that we thought was so very clever is it's a scissor holder. And what it does is there's an adhesive part on this side of this little contraption here. And this sticks on the side of your sewing machine. So it's extra tacky and it'll hold a little bit of weight. And then what you can do with this is just slip your scissors right inside here. And then it has another little section that you could either do your seam ripper, which, you know, you hate to admit that you use that as often as you do, but if you're like me, you use it often. Or another little pair of snips or something like that. So this is very, very clever. I think this keeps your scissors handy right on the edge of your machine, and it's just so perfect. So we have the link on where you can get these below. They are from sewverysmooth.com, and it's really a handy, nifty little thing.
Yeah, so neat.
Yes.
Keeps it organized too and out of your space. Another tip we've got, if your sewing area is kind of lacking in light, like mine is, mine has no overhead, you can just get these handy dandy clip lights or book lights and clip them onto the sides of your table, or if you have something overhead that you can clip it onto and make a light come down.
That's awesome.
They're perfect for that. But do make sure that you're getting LED lights because otherwise your lights are going to heat up and get really hot. And you already have a hot iron, so like, just don't do that to yourself.
So LED is the way to go on that.
And just be careful when you're putting them up that you're tying up your cords and, you know, making sure you don't have any hazardous walking ways or that you're going to roll over it, and just keep them nice and tidy and do a little cable management.
And those zip ties are perfect for cable management. Those are available at any discount or big hardware store. That I mean, so very inexpensive and easy to do your cord management, because that is important, the safety. So another little thing that I do, and it may be kind of silly, but this is important to me, is I need a trash can in my sewing room. And I think most of us do, because we always have those little thread ends or the little trimmings from your blocks whenever you square them up. I don't have a lot of space, so what I do is I just take a grocery bag and the handles and I tape it to my sewing table. And that way it's right next to me whenever I'm sewing. So any threads that I clip, I just put right next to me. And then whenever I'm done with that sewing session, I can just pull it off and go put it in the trash can.
That's so clever.
Yeah, because, you know, if I don't have that, my cat drags those threads all over the house.
Yes, and you don't need that.
So that was a little handy thing that I always do, because I don't have room for a trash can on the floor.
That's awesome. Well, we hope you learned some good tricks today to help you in your sewing room.
Yeah, and if you have any good ones that you do that we didn't mention here, write them in the comments and share them with us. We would love to hear them.
Yeah, always looking for more ways to organize. So it's Hannah
and Fran Morgan with Fabric Cafe.
Thanks for joining us.